Our point, though, isn't just to get you your best LSAT score, it's to get you your best law school admissions opportunities. And for that, it is always better to do it right the first time. Now, it may be that you decide, you know, this really wasn't very good, and I know I can do better, and I want to take it again. Okay, well, let's talk about that for a second. The real question is there a significant probability that you can substantially raise your LSAT score the second time around? Now, nobody's judgment about that is going to be right 100% of the time, but there are certain ways that you can increase your probability of being right about it. First, you need to be really clear about what went wrong the first time. If you can't point to anything that went seriously amiss and that you can fix, then what you should probably do is you should take the score that you have, be proud of it, be happy with it, and move on. That means you also want to get the ego out of your calculations. Don't think that because you got a substandard LSAT score or something less than what you expect, don't think that that has anything to do with your intelligence, your value as a human being, or anything else. What it has to do with is you didn't do as well as you'd hoped on an exam. That's it. It doesn't mean more than that ultimately. So when you're thinking about what went really wrong, one of the things to do is to kind of take yourself out of that calculation and not worry about the more egocentric points. Now, if you know something went wrong, but you aren't really sure what it was, that's a little bit of a different problem. And what you have to do is run through a list of possibilities. And I'm just going to read off a bunch of, I think, the more common reasons why people don't do as well as they had hoped or as they're capable of. Did you have a problem with understanding certain types of questions or certain kinds of sections? Did you generally have problems with logic games? In logical reasoning, did you have issues with assumption questions, data questions, or some other kind of question that really took a lot of points away from what you were able to perform? Did you get confused while you were taking the LSAT about how to approach a certain type of question and you panicked? Did you have trouble getting started in certain sections? Did you have trouble because you got tired? Were you trying to do too much? Were your techniques too complicated? These are just a few of the things where you can say, okay, that really was a problem. One of the other problems is too much going on in the rest of your life. You didn't clear out the distractions before you took the exam and you brought them into the exam with you. And look, some people have ideas about what went wrong, and it's usually a combination of things, including some of the ones that I just mentioned. Now, it's not usually just a problem with content. It's not usually just, I had trouble with assumption questions, or I had trouble in reading comp with agreement with a further statement type of question. There's usually a combination of content and test-taking issues going on. Now, if you're able to diagnose your problems, and people call me about this all the time, and I am happy to talk with them and look over their past exams, and I'll do that at no charge. If you have diagnosed your problems, what should you do? What a lot of people do is they do the same type of prep the second time as they did the first time. Now, that's kind of an interesting theory, but it never works. If something's broken, you don't ride on the broken wheel, you get yourself a new one. And you just need to figure out how you're going to do things differently next time than you did this time. And that's operationalizing the diagnosis. So what you need to find is an LSAT prep program or LSAT strategies that correct the specific problems that you had the first time, and you should know exactly how much each of those problems cost you. You or your advisor, or me if you call me, we should be able to go through every type of issue and say, this is how many points this cost you. If you can't do that, then you probably shouldn't be retaking the LSAT until you can do that. Now, even if you know that, you have to be careful of tunnel vision. What happens to some people when they retake the LSAT is they'll do really well at what they didn't do well the first time, but what they did do well the first time, they don't do so well at again, because they weren't focused on that. That's why when you're retaking the LSAT, you really shouldn't use a spot approach. Oh, I just had problems with analytical reasoning, so I'm just going to focus on that. Because what's likely to happen is that your performance on reading comp and or logical reasoning will suffer because you're too focused on analytical reasoning. Same thing if you're focused on logical reasoning or reading comp. So it's important to kind of start over with a whole program rather than taking a spot approach. But it may make sense to retake the LSAT if you can diagnose the problems that you had the first time and you know how to fix them.